Hello, this is a getting to know your 2020 Shelby GT500 video. We'll give you some walk around, some under the hood, inside, some of the settings, out driving, different modes, some things to do, some things not to do, and some little nuances that are unique and different with the 2020 model. So here we go. All right, starting with the exterior. So first of all, this is a Rapid Red base model with the handling package. It also has tech package and Recaros. But you can see that this car has splitter wickers on the front. And it also has a gurney flap in the back. That identifies this car as a handling package car. And according to the owner's manual and Ford information, it says that those items are supposed to be only installed for the track. Yeah, whatever. Everyone that has it has them on their car because they look cool. And they're functional. I think the only use them on the track information is simply because they add drag, and I'm sure they reduce the miles per hour, or the miles per gallon rather. But so let's just do a little walk around. This car has hood pins. We'll show more of those when we pop the hood. It has a big old hood vent and a rain tray. We'll talk about that more when we pop the hood and look at the bottom side. One big, I guess, limiting factor with these cars is this area right here. The nice sticky tires will throw a ton of rocks up into that area. I've got the JLT rock blockers, which are just a little foam wedged insert there that blocks that area. Highly recommend that mod, or get some front mud flaps, or even both, but helpful. So let's see what else. The mirrors on this car, kind of like the older versions of the Terminators, they fold in. There are blinkers, and if you get the tech package, you get a blind spot warning on these mirrors. There'll be a little light that flashes on the inside that lets you know there's a car, or it's right there actually. Car in your blind spot. That's helpful. There are no external locks. You don't use your key. It's a keyless fob, so to speak. The brakes. Brakes are monstrous on this car. It's been discussed in other videos, but they're 16.5-inch, 6-piston front. Absolutely throw your ass out of the car type brakes, just crazy. The back has 4-piston calipers with a separate emergency or parking brake electronic caliper. And we'll talk more about that from inside the cabin on how to operate that. Huge exhaust pipes, 5 inches on the dual tips, quad, or on each side there's quad total there. And it has a backup camera. You can see right there, backup camera. The gurney flap attaches with, there's 4 screws that come with the gurney flap that you can install. It has a, this is the third eye level brake light up there. And interestingly enough, Ford has changed. This is a job 1. This is an early car. This is one of the first 100 to be delivered. But the satellite reception puck, so to speak, is changed to a shark fin on the later cars. That's kind of it for basic outside walk around. So we'll get this thing fired up and get it outside to get better. All right, we got the car outside. You got to deal with mower noise because it's a beautiful day here in Texas, and my neighbor is mowing his grass. So let's pop the hood and take a look underneath the hood on this car. So this one's a little differently. You got to pull this hood latch release, and then you go to the front. You press the driver's side button first. Then you press the passenger side button, reach underneath in the middle, you'll feel the release right there, lift it up, and we have a hood strut finally, and you have access to the engine. Some things worth mentioning under the engine bay here, or in the engine bay. This is the oil separator. I believe the Job 2 carbon fiber track pack cars are actually going to come with that installed. None of the cars have had them installed up to this point. The oil separator comes with the handling package and the carbon fiber track pack cars. They've come in the trunk up to this point, and I think they're going to continue to come in the trunk with the handling package car. But so I installed this one myself. This is actually an owner install option, and except for, like I said, I think the carbon fiber track pack cars are going to come with that installed. But to see how that's installed, I put a DIY thread in the forum that I manage, Ford GT500.com. That's FORDGT500.com. In the DIY section, there's a step-by-step guide on how to install that. There's another guide that I put there because a lot of these cars, actually I think all of them, have been plagued with this heater hose here, which should be routed. This one I fixed myself, but should be routed down alongside the back there of the engine. And they've all been coming with that hose up and over the back of the supercharger and pinched in the between the supercharger and the firewall, which will eventually lead to leaking. But there's a step-by-step guide also on FordGT500.com in the DIY section. You have to take out the strut tower brace and get in underneath the cowl there to reroute that hose. I'm sure that's a warranty item if you're willing to let a dealer crawl around your engine bay to fix that. Other than that, basically standard supercharged. It's a 5.2 aluminum engine with a 2.65 supercharged engine, and it's got a whole lot of get up and scoot, a lot of fun. The other item worth mentioning here is this rain tray. Rain tray stays in for street driving according to Ford to keep the rain out of your engine bay, but can be removed for track option, and it's a bunch of these little torque bits. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it looks like, with those, and you can pull that out for maximum cooling for racing at the track. Other things up front, the tow hook comes in the trunk and screws into this position here. Apparently you just press on this side, but I don't know if mine's stiff. I don't know. I don't want to break it, so I haven't opened that yet. But press on this side, it pops open, and then you screw the tow hook in, which will go look in the trunk right now. So the key fob is double tap for the trunk to open. Pops. And in the trunk, now this car has the tech package, so there's the big subwoofer on the side. One subwoofer on one side. And underneath the lid is the tire inflator. And I also have the tow hook, which is right here. And then also in here is your funnel to add gas manually to the car. And that's pretty much it in the trunk. I didn't mention, but to close the hood, you simply just grab it, lower it down, and let it drop. That's it. Nothing special to do with the hood pins. They auto lock when you shut the hood, and they are locked. So we'll get inside and talk about the dash and some settings. Inside, key fob, you've got lock or unlock lock. 2 times is remote start with your key fob. You can also start it with the Ford app, Ford Pass app, I think it is, on the phone. 2 times open the trunk, and then there's also a, I think, a panic alarm there. And then there's a key inside here if you ever have to use a manual key for whatever reason. But yeah, you don't even need to unlock it. You can unlock it, or you can just reach up. Right now the car is locked and the alarm is armed. You can just come up and pull on the handle with the key fob on your body, and it opens up. All right, this car has Recaros, which are fabulous. Love these seats. They're a much higher bolster and lock you in nicely than previous versions of Recaros. And it also has the carbon fiber dash panel or instrument panel. All these cars come with a chassis number there, which does not match the VIN, by the way. They're independent of the VIN. So, as you can see, there's a lot of controls on the 2020. Let's see, starting over here, you've got your headlights in auto mode. That's normal. These paddles left and right are dimming your lights, dimming and making them brighter. There's a little secret hidden compartment next to your trunk. That's a trunk release if you want to use that button. But this is a little secret, I didn't even know that was there at first, but there's a little panel for maybe putting some sunglasses in there or something. That slides out. There's your hood release. On your door, you have standard window, a mirror adjustment, lock, unlock, speakers. I think there's 12 speakers on this tech package. The steering wheel, Alcantara and leather mix with a bunch of different buttons, and we'll talk more about those when we get fired up here. You can see the big old paddles on both sides of the steering wheel. Those are pretty nice. The only issue I've seen when I first got the car is going to pull the downshift paddle. You can see the lights right behind it, and it's easy, especially when you're new in the car, to reach up and grab that instead of this. So just watch where you're grabbing. You get muscle memory with the car after a few drives. The instrument panel is just a computer screen, LCD computer screen, I believe that is. And that'll come to life here momentarily. The only hard gauges you have are oil pressure and oil temp. And then everything else is computer screens. And you can see all the controls for different modes, stereo, as well as the air conditioning, heating, HVAC stuff. And there's your big red start button and the infamous dial, which I've actually grown to like a lot. And the electronic parking brake. So if you notice, there's no, manual parking brake on this car anymore, which is a big change for Mustang owners. But so right here, this electronic parking brake, you'll actually hear it. So I'll put my foot on the brake down there, and then I'll apply this, and you'll probably hear it. Well, I gotta lift it up to apply it. That's right. All right, getting started. You can see we're inside. There's a red brake annunciator on the dash. That means that the parking brake is on. There is an automatic release function, but let's see. So to start it, we have the key fob in our possession. It's in the car. I'm gonna put the foot on the brake, press the start button. And it comes to life. So the parking brake is still set, and it starts. Here, we'll take the parking brake off. So just foot on the brake down there and release that. And you probably couldn't hear that over the exhaust mode or the exhaust sound, but it did pop up and it says parking brake is released. All right, let's talk about driving mode. So when you first start the car, it defaults to normal mode. There's a toggle down here for different modes, and it only cycles up. You can't, it's not a two-way toggle, it's a one-way toggle. So as I cycle it up, you're going to see there's normal. That's a my mode that I have programmed, and I did that through the different settings. You can see I basically went with a sport style gauge cluster, and then I defaulted mine to track exhaust, so the exhaust got louder. And then those 3 gauges in the middle here are gauges that I selected out of a list. And I think I have what, air, fuel, inlet temp, and vacuum boost. And let's see, we'll switch modes some more. So that's the My mode that we're in. There's Sport mode, which is, like I said, that's the same setting that I have for the gauge cluster. And then one more, Track, totally changes the look of the screen. And then you just get the big annunciator across the top. And then there's Drag Strip. And there's a Slippery mode. Alright, got the car off again to show a feature here. Without your foot on the brake, so no foot on the brake, you can press the button there, and basically it puts it into like an accessory mode. Close the door so we're not listening to the annunciator there. So this allows you can go in and select different things on the dash. Some things aren't available because the engine isn't running, but allows you to go in, like I said, accessory mode and play with different things. You can go into the menus. This is the Cobra button down here. So there's, you can see My mode, there's track apps, you can go into it. Now, some of the stuff won't be available simply because the engine isn't running, like I said. But you just cycle through all the different options. Performance shift indicator. Gauges, that's how you select which gauges you want to show up on the dash there. Configure your gauges, and again, you just cycle through the different keys on the steering wheel to make all that happen. Performance shift indicator, you can have a shift point on your tack. You can also do a shift tone, an audible tone, and then shift light mode. You can have it off. You can have it in different modes there. You can have it show up on the windshield as a pilot. I'd call that a HUD. So shift lights up on the HUD, which are actually pretty cool. That happens in track mode by default. But yeah, there's different features you can access there. So we'll get the car running, foot on the brake. It's running again. Get some air conditioning blowing because it's a nice day in Texas. And I'm actually going to put the exhaust in quiet mode. So you change exhaust here, and you'll see up here, so that's normal. And there's quiet, and that way I can talk a little bit here with the engine running. So up top, this is your stereo controls. You also have stereo controls on the steering wheel over here. And then down here is your HVAC, if you will, your air conditioning. These are sliders for temperature. You can slide their rockers up and down. But everything's done through the screen here. And this car, like I said, has the tech package. So let's see. Well, right now we're in climate. These are selectable buttons on the bottom of the screen. You can go to audio, and that shows you, what you're listening to. You can change stations down there on the screen or up here. And you can change down here. That's how you turn the stereo off. There's also an eject button. There's no disc in there, but there's a CD slot right underneath there. There's a USB down here for streaming. You can also stream Bluetooth. Let's see, so we saw audio, we saw climate. You can go into a phone setting, and there's different options here. There's navigation, which, let's see here. I'm not going to show nav because it shows you where I live. Apps. There's apps. You can download different apps. You can also do Apple CarPlay and settings. And that's how you can go in and change things like your audio, speed compensated volume. And oh, by the way, this is scrolls just like a phone would. So it's very user friendly. You can tune here, you can tune here. There's rear defrost, recirculate. This little thing in here is your fan up and down. I was used to big rotary dials on previous models, but that's your fan higher and lower. Defrost, rear defrost, and the max AC. Max defrost, that is, max AC. Back here we talked about, that's driving modes, exhaust modes, and this is your traction control. So let's look up at the dash. If I throw that rocker switch, you'll see traction control off, traction control on. Those are your options. And the other rocker is your hazards, which is right there. The hazards are flashing, and that's back off. Down here you've got a tray for holding your phone if you want. There's a power cord, rotary dial, which we're going to be talking about more here in a minute. Parking brake, which we talked about. Nice big cup holders. There's 2 cup holders, and there's no stick shift or parking brake to interfere with those. You got straight up cup holders there. It's all good. And then back here is your armrest. There's another USB in there and another power cord. Armrests release with buttons on either side there. That's kind of your basic layout. And you can see these gauges have come to life now, and oil temp is warming up. All right, time to go, well, actually, you know what? Here, before we go driving, we can show a few more things. So here we have shocks or MagneRide, and we also have steering adjustments. So right now we're in normal driving mode, so the shocks or MagneRide is in normal mode. We can hit that, that says, confirms it's a normal, and then we can switch those to sport, which is a stiffer ride. And then our steering button down here, we can, first one, well, we went right to sport steering, and then we hit it again, there's comfort steering and normal steering. So sport, comfort, and normal. And then whenever you are in a different driving mode, a lot of these things change automatically. So like when you switch it over to, let's go to sport, we can hear the exhaust changed. I'm gonna put that back in quiet so we can talk and not hear it. So switch that back to quiet exhaust, but the steering and the suspension all went into sport mode, which is a more aggressive setting. All right, let's see, anything else I need to show before we go driving? And no, let's go for a ride. All right, about to go for a drive. So to get this car going, put your foot on the brake and put it in drive. You're now in automatic mode with the DCT. Radar detector. Car will shift by itself. The paddles are still active at all times. It's called keep alive or keep live paddles, whatever like that, something like that. But the paddles are always active. And I've learned that driving around town, just out having fun, you know, playing in the car, manual mode, which is pressing the middle button of the shift dial here, locks the transmission in manual. There's a light that lights up right here. That's a whole lot of fun, and I prefer driving around in that mode. The paddles are always in full control. The shifts are crazy fast. Now, you'll notice when you drive these around that if you're not getting on the gas, you know, kind of aggressively, and you hit the next higher gear, the shifts can be kind of slow and lazy. But when you're performance driving and you're hammering on the gas, the instant you hit the paddle, bang, the next gear shift happens. And it's really a weird feeling in this car. So on, you know, comparing it to an automatic car, when you go to shift, an automatic car will, you know, very quickly interrupt fuel and spark and kind of ease the engine down into the next gear. This car doesn't do that. This car does basically a power shift, and it uses that engine rotating mass momentum to just hammer in the next gear. I'm going to put it back in automatic. So while we're talking here, you got to remember that's another thing I've found with this car is if you're not focused, all the time, it's easy to forget you're in manual mode, and the RPMs will run up and up and up, and you'll get up to red line and go, oh crap, yeah, I'm locked into manual mode. You got to remember that you're in manual mode, because you can be switching back and forth in different modes in this car. So when it's time to go balls out, performance driving, put it in D, don't hit manual mode, and let the transmission shift. It will nail the shift. So especially when you're in drag mode, turn that radar detector down. So when you're in drag mode and you're just standing on the skinny pedal, it will nail the shifts at 7,500 RPMs on the dot. And if you try to do that by yourself, you're going to either hit the rev limiter and feel that decay and acceleration, or you're going to shift way early by accident. It's happening so quickly and so violently that it's hard to nail that shift. So that's why when you're doing performance driving, it's I would recommend to just put it in D and forget about it. Now I did the Vegas event and drove this one of these cars out on the track, and I spent the whole time in manual mode. Absolutely loved it, but I was nowhere near max performing this car. The professional driver that took me out after that for a hot lap, he was in automatic mode, and this car is nuts on the track. So first of all, when you're on the track, make sure you're in track mode, and it's going to show that your traction control, stability control is off. That's really not true. That's kind of a misnomer, so to speak. All that's doing is it's loosening up the controls and allowing a lot more lateral slide, if you will, more yaw, and it's opening up the restraints quite a bit more, so you can have more fun driving and not have the nannies reeling in. But the stability control, it's still working for you. It just has looser controls. All right, we're just doing a nice slow drive here while we're talking about some of the basics. So right now we're in automatic drive mode, and yet the paddles are still live. It just switches over to track exhaust, which I prefer. It's a lot of fun. Now, one thing about the track exhaust is there is drone. When you're kind of cruising in the lower RPMs, you're going to hear some internal cabin drone. So if you're doing a road trip, normal or even quiet, but just out playing, having fun with this car, it's track all day long. It's a lot of fun. So when you hit the paddles when you're in automatic mode, you're going to command a gear, and then it'll hold that gear for a set amount of time, and it doesn't really say it in the manual. It kind of depends on what you're doing. And then if you don't do anything for a while, it'll go back to the automatic commanded gear for that given moment. Here, I'll switch it back to, we'll put it in normal mode, or actually we'll put it in sport mode, normal exhaust, so we can talk and not have too much exhaust noise. Alright, kind of a fun feature with this dual clutch transmission is, it's got a few fun features. One of them is you can pull both paddles towards you, and that puts it kind of in, it's like kind of putting it into neutral. And of course we need to be in track exhaust for that. So you pull both paddles towards you, allows you to rev it, release it, puts it back into gear. That's kind of fun. Another neat feature is when you're in automatic mode, I think it also works in manual mode, you can hold the left paddle and it will downshift to the lowest possible gear at the time. So let's say, whatever, you're pulling alongside a car and you want to hammer on the throttle to get going. Here, some people will rev it here. See, that's fun. They're all pointing and waving. All right, so the car right now is in automatic transmission mode in 4th gear. If I press and hold the left paddle, it downshifts it to the lowest possible gear at that moment. And it's kind of fun to be able to get on it just like that without having to worry about it. You know, if you're in, let's say, cruising in 6th, 7th gear, and you hammer it, you don't have to have it downshift, downshift, downshift. It just pre-selects the lowest possible gear, and then you can just hammer it and go. Likewise, let's say you're in a higher or a lower gear, you can press and hold the right paddle. It'll put it in the lowest possible gear. Now, right now, it just put it all the way down in the 5th gear. So again, a neat feature, but really to pull and hold the left pedals is the fun. So that's good time. All right, I am in drag strip mode and automatic shifting. That's the mode where you can use launch control. We're going to try it right here. You get out of the hole will depend on your traction. The traction control, launch control system is going to feed as much power as the rear tires can handle at any given moment. So coming out of the hole, now I'm on asphalt in this particular road, not new, so it's not the greatest of traction. The temperature is kind of low, it's 60 degrees. So you get yourself on etched concrete and you'll see some amazing get up and scoot out of the hole. Right now we're in track mode and automatic shifting on the transmission, and I'm going to give it some gas and brake and let you hear the shifting. Hopefully it comes through okay on the GoPro, because the sounds this thing makes and the crazy shifts are just awesome in this car. So let's see, you can see a little bit up the road. Here we go. Okay, I got the car back in my mode, which is Sport Dash Track Exhaust, and I've also hit the M button to lock in the paddles so the car will not auto shift, and I'll show you how crazy fast these shifts happen, which are a lot of fun. So I'm going to give it some gas here. Have complained about the paddle shifting DCT have no idea how awesome this is. Woo. And I was short shifting those. I was shifting about 6,500 or so, just because I was doing video. And like I said, if you really want to drive max performance, put it in D and just nail it and have some fun. All right, well, we're in track mode, manual shifting. Shifting at 5,200 RPMs. You go up to 7,500 RPMs redline in this car. The sounds are fabulous. hit you harder, depending on where the steering wheel is. Actually, if you got the steering wheel top dead center, the shifts will hit you hard. If you got some yaw into the car with the steering wheel offset, the shifts will ease up so it doesn't upset the rear end of the car and keep you planted. So the same thing with drag strip mode. Your hardest shifts, fastest time will keep the steering wheel, if you're keeping the steering wheel top dead center. See, like right now, I'm just cruising at 63, and I'm in 4th gear at 3,200 RPMs, and it's not shifting to 5th, 6th, 7th, simply because I'm in track mode. We'll give it a little run here. That is a wild ride. That is fantastic. All right, we just got done with Fun Drive, and I'll show you some of the stuff on the dash now. I showed you some before the drive, but the Cobra button right here does quite a bit to get you into different options. Right now it's on Performance Shift Indicator, so you hit OK. Display Source, you hit OK. Right now it's on Cluster, and you'll see when I hit HUD, you see the lights up on the dash there. Let me change that again. Shift, let's see, Shift, Display Source, Cluster. I'm gonna put this right up on the window so you can see when it changes. HUD. You see those lights? So those will grow and come together at your preset shift point. So your performance shift indicator, you can set up a shift point, and right now it's set at 7,500. You can, oops, I hit the wrong button there. Let's see, performance shift point. You can set that higher and lower. I just got it up at 7,500. You can turn that off. You can turn it on. You can also set up a shift tone to go with that shift point, so you can set it short of red line if you wanted to. I currently have that off. You can change the light intensity from 10% to 100%. Let's see what else we have. We have track apps. There's line lock, which I have not used yet, but let's give it a shot. So it says OK, press hold OK to initialize line lock, so I'm pressing holding OK. And track use only, it says to engage firmly, press and hold brake. All right, so I pressed and held the brake fully, and now it's in line lock. Press OK to begin. I press OK, and it says it's not available. Probably because I'm not sure why, but maybe I'm not in the right mode. But that's basically how you get into line lock, and that then you release the front brake and burn the rears. The owner's manual does recommend turning off traction control when you do that. So right there, let's see, traction control's off. That allows you to do the line lock burnout, and then roll forward after that by releasing the line lock to get out of the water box or burnout area. And then you have to re-engage traction control. Let's see, let's get out of here. You'd have to re-engage traction control, turn that back on, and then you'd have to be in, well, you know, it probably wasn't available because I was not in drag strip mode. So drag strip mode, let's see, let's try it. So there's drag strip mode there. You heard the exhaust change. I had it quieted. It went to track mode now. So then you hit your Cobra button. Track apps, OK. Line lock, OK. Press and hold, OK to initialize line lock. I press and hold it. There you go. To engage firmly, apply the brake and hold. Press OK to begin. Oh, there we go. I felt that in the brake pedal, and there's a countdown. I could be doing a burnout right now, and then I can either tap the brake itself or hit the OK button, and that'll cancel it. So there, I just hit OK, and we're actually rolling forward. So either way, it would cancel the line lock. So there we go. But I have no intent to burn my rear tires for a demo here. So that's how you use line lock. All right, other things in track apps. Hit the Cobra button. We have track apps again. We just saw line lock. There's launch control. I can set launch control to, I can change the RPMs. Right now it's set at 3,000. That range is 3,200 all the way down to, looks like 1,200. And I had it set at 3,000. Obviously, the better traction your surface is, the higher RPM you're going to be allowed. Lower the traction, you know, if you're not on a good road, you're going to want to lower that. But you hit return to get back out of that. Launch control, we can hit OK. You have your launch control set simply by going into drag strip mode. You don't need to select it in the dash there. Just by selecting drag strip mode, you're going to two foot this. You're going to put your left foot on the brake all the way to the floor. You're going to stomp the gas pedal all the way to the floor, and you're going to see your tack go up, and it's going to sit there and bounce right at your preset RPMs, in my case 3,000. It's going to sit there going bup, 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 bup. And then as soon as you release your foot off the brake, the car will go into its launch control mode, and it's going to dig in and go. Now there is kind of a hair delay from brake release till when the car goes, so watching drag strip videos, guys have been basically releasing it at the last yellow light and hoping they don't red light it. But that's launch control. There's acceleration timer. You can do 0 to 30, 0 to 60, 0 to 100, eighth mile, quarter mile. You can view all your results and clear all your results, and those are your acceleration timers. There's also brake performance. You can check 60 to 0, 100 to 0, and clear those results as well. All right, let's talk about these gauges. So this is the normal mode, and my color, I have kind of a blue and red theme going on there, but you can go in again with the Cobra button, and then you can select gauges and configure my gauges. There's different things you can select. Right now I have air fuel ratio, and I'd have to deselect some to get these other active because you can only have 3 showing at any given moment. But you can see the different ones that are available there. I have vacuum, boost, air inlet temp, and air fuel. Available by hitting the Cobra button is you can go in here. There's my mode, track apps, performance, shift indicator, gauges, exhaust mode, but you really don't need to go in there because you got a big old toggle right down here for exhaust mode. And cluster appearance, you can go in there and select different modes, but the default is change with drive modes, which I just leave that because as you change drive modes, and I'll do that here as a demo, as I'm hitting this rocker, you're going to see the screen change. There's normal, there's my mode, which I have programmed to look like sport, but it's in track exhaust, sport, steering, sport, MagnaRide. And then after my mode is sport mode, which is going to look very similar because I got them set up the same. And after sport, we have track, which is a fun one. Big tack across the top. Good for looking outside and kind of keeping your RPMs in your peripheral vision. And then you also can have the shift lights up on the windshield as your HUD. And then after track, we have drag strip. I use that for fun here and there, just to do launch control and get the car digging out of the hole very quickly. And after drag strip is slippery, which I really haven't used yet because I don't drive this car in inclement weather. I like to point out, when you go back to track mode, you'll see down here in the corner, right there, it shows that the traction control, stability control is off. There was a guy on Facebook that said he took his car to the track and didn't want his traction control off, so he drove it in sport mode. Billy Johnson, who helped design this car and is a professional race car driver, piped up and said, nope, if you're going to the track, put the car in track mode. That's what it's designed for. It'll give you a lot of advantages, and your stability control is still working for you. It's just loosened up gives you a lot more yaw capability, but it's still there to reel you in if you really get out of shape. So that little warning light down there is kind of a misnomer, so to speak. So it's still working for you, just looser setup. All right, a few other things. I wrote down some notes to keep a few high points to mention here, but this car, there's no one-to-one drive gear, so fourth gear is going to be your closest if you're looking to do a dyno run. Straight out of the manual, fourth gear is 1.10 to 1, or it's 0.10 off of 1 to 1, and fifth is 0.86 to 1, or 0.14 off from 1 to 1. So fourth gear is the dyno gear for this car. I mentioned it when out driving, but the brakes in this car, holy crap, they are absolutely insane. So actually I did brake burnishing, like you know, when you get the car, you know, and you put new brakes on the car, you go do multiple, you know, medium speed to slow speed without coming to a stop. I did multiples of those when I first got the car. The brake burnishing is really just in the track section, talking about breaking the car in for, you know, track use. I did it with this car just to make sure that the brakes are good, but yeah, they are stout. They will seriously stop this car. One thing that hopefully won't affect anybody is when these cars come to the dealer, when they arrive at the dealership, they're in delivery mode. The previous gen GT500s had a mileage before you could do full boost. This simply comes in a permanent delivery mode. That there's a series of buttons that you have to hit in an allotted amount of time to get the car out of delivery mode. And with it in delivery mode, you can't rev over, you know, it's real low RPMs. I forget what it was, but as I was pulling this car out of the dealership to take it back to their service bay to install the parts, I went to rev it and you can't, which is nice. It's a nice feature, but if you get your car and it's and the RPMs won't go up and it's real sluggish, it's probably stuck in dealer delivery mode. So hopefully those are available online. Otherwise, go back to your dealer and they'll take it out. Also, the carbon fiber track pack cars come with spacers in the springs. Those cars are a little bit higher than, or I'm sorry, a little bit lower than the base model cars. So they put a little spacer in the springs to get them on and off the trucks without damaging anything. So you got to make sure those are out, otherwise it will ride really stiff like. There's been some discussion online about how this car, it doesn't really feel very powerful. A couple things at play there is one, you got reduced power until your engine is up to temperature. So it's protecting itself from a cold engine and you know, not properly lubed yet. So once the engine's up to operating temp, you'll have full power available. But also it may be kind of slow out of the hole from what you're used to. And that's simply your traction control only feeding in what the rear tires will allow. The traction control system on this car is fabulous. It really does a good job about giving you usable power, but not allowing the car to get out of shape. So if you can find an etched concrete road, which is basically your freeways, which are made out of concrete versus asphalt, try bringing this car, if you can find an empty area or a no traffic area, try bringing it to a stop and put it in drag mode and use launch control, and you'll see just how violently this thing comes out of the hole. And it's when you've got excellent traffic, or when you got excellent traction, it really gets up and gets boogieing out of the hole, which is a lot of fun. All right, something I'm going to show you here, this transmission selector. Right now I'm in D for drive. There's some safety features that it'll automatically do for you. So with it in D, I'll try and film it here, and I open the door. You see how it automatically shifted to park? That's simply because I have my seatbelt off. So let's try that again with seatbelt on. Let's see if I can get it on with one hand holding the camera. So seatbelt on. I'll put it back in drive, and I'm going to open the door, and it does not shift to park automatically. It stays in drive. But now if I disconnect my seatbelt, it automatically shifts to park. Kind of a unique feature, but that guy on Facebook, so he was going to do a burnout, drag racing burnout, and he opened his door and undid his seat belt to confirm he was in the water box, which he did, and then essentially tried to do a burnout with the car and park. And it also can set the parking brake for you too, depending on what's going on. So be careful of that. If you're going to be opening the door, you got to do it with your seatbelt on, otherwise it's going to shift to park. And the parking brake itself will automatically engage if you're on a slope, incline. You got to keep an eye on that. Now, if you put the car, like right now, if I put it in parking brake to on, okay, and then you see parking brake is on the dash, and I forget that it's on, and I put the car in drive and go to drive away, I'll just hit a gas, and the parking brake automatically disengages. So kind of idiot proof, if you will, so you don't drive around with your parking brake on. That's kind of a handy feature. Another safety feature with the parking, or with the transmission right now, we're in drive. If I just turn off the car, it automatically shifted to park all by itself. So you can't get out of the car with it in neutral. All right, we're gonna talk about the stay in neutral mode. So if you put it in neutral, and press M within 5 seconds and turn off the car, it stays in neutral and it says transmission not in park. But that allows me to get out, doors open, and I could push the car around with it in neutral. Now this is not a mode that you want to tow a car in or leave it in for any length of time, because it's using battery power. And if the battery goes low, then it can shift it into park automatically. So there's a manual parking brake release mode that you got to look in the owner's manual to figure out how to do that. But if you want to push the car around the garage or something, that's how you do that mode. So again, that is with the car running, shift it into neutral, hit the M button within 5 seconds, I believe it is, and then turn off the car, and you can open the door and it stays in neutral. Now to exit that mode, I just put my foot on the brake, switched it over to park, and it's back in park and the car's off. That's it. Back in the garage after the drive. Wanted to show everybody how low this front splitter is, and it's about 5 3/4 inches there, and the splitter wickers are just a hair under 5 1/2, almost 5 1/4 inches. Now this is a base car handling package. The carbon fiber track pack cars are lower, so be careful of the front. Well, that's it. That was the getting to know your 2020 GT500 video with some fun driving. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys learned something about the car. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See ya.